Hi, I'm Lucy and I'm totally not a robot. In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn these optical media with movies into files that you can actually play on your computer. The process is called ripping, and I must warn you at the very beginning that depending on where you live and how medieval your local copyright laws are, it might be illegal. So, before following this tutorial, make sure you are allowed to do so. Luckily, here in Europe, I've paid all the ransom by purchasing the physical media, so at least for personal use I'm free to do whatever I want with them. Let's start with the media themselves. As you have probably already noticed, I have chosen the Matrix movie for the demonstration. I have 3 different versions here. Let me open the first, rather fancy-looking paper box, and see what is inside. You can clearly see that this is a DVD. There is a big DVD logo on the black plastic and also here on the disc itself. The disc also says that it is a Region 2 DVD, which means it should only be playable in Europe, but as we will see a bit later, nobody really cares. The second disc that I have is a Blu-ray, which you can easily identify by the blue strip on top of the box, with a logo that says Blu-ray disc. After opening the box, you can see the same Blu-ray disc logo on the media itself. The last one is a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, which you can again easily identify by the black strip on top of the box, which says 4K Ultra HD. But in this case, after opening the box, as you can see there are 2 discs inside. The first disc says 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, which is what you would probably expect. The second disc, however, says just Blu-ray disc. So what is this all about? This is because very often, but not always, when buying the 4K version of a movie, the box will contain the Blu-ray version as well. If that is the case, it will be clearly indicated on the box, as you can see right here. So the obvious question is the Blu-ray that you get with a 4K disc the same as the Blu-ray that you buy alone? Well, yes and no. While the movie itself is the same, it is very likely that the 2 discs will contain a different set of languages, subtitles, or bonuses. Next, let's talk about the hardware. Here I have an old laptop that I'll be using for the job. This is a ThinkPad T530, and the nice thing about it is that it is old enough to still have a DVD drive. I also have these 2 Blu-ray drives. On first sight they look identical, however the one on the right can only read regular Blu-ray discs, while the one on the left can read both regular Blu-ray discs and 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray discs. They are in fact the exact same hardware, the same optics, and they can both read up to 4-layer Blu-ray discs. They even cost pretty much the same, both around €100. If you can find a shop that sells both, the 4K drive will most likely be only around €5 more expensive, compared to the non-4K one. So what is the difference? It is just one of the attempts to enforce digital rights management, or DRM for short. While the physical discs are the same, the digital content is encrypted, and the encryption keys for 4K content are different from the ones for regular Blu-ray discs. So the only difference between the 2 drives is that the firmware in the left drive does contain encryption keys for the 4K discs, while the one in the right drive does not. And if you want to know how I can tell which one is which, I have fitted these small rubber feet on the non-4K drive. Now let's have a look at the software. On the laptop I have a freshly installed Debian 12. The tool that I am going to use is called MakeMKV, and you will not find it in the repositories, because it is proprietary. And before you start objecting, as much as I hate using proprietary software, I know no nice open source alternative. And yes, there are ways to rip the discs using only open source software, and these might work fine if you only want to rip a few discs, and consider it a learning exercise. But every time I've tried it, It was a very manual process, and if you want to quickly rip a library of say 100 movies, it really does not scale well. So in order to install MakeMKV, I'll have to open a browser and navigate to makemkv.com. On this rather simple website I'll click download, and here you can see that MakeMKV is primarily available for Windows and Mac OS X. However, if you read the tiny text at the very top, it does say that you can get a Linux version in a forum post, so let's click the link and see what's there. And indeed, there are download links and some instructions, so let's follow them. First, we need to download 2 tarballs, as the tool is split into an open source part and a proprietary part. And no, the open source part is not useful on its own, you need both for the tool to work properly. Here I have downloaded both tarballs into a newly created MakeMKV directory. Now let's unpack them just like that. Next, the instructions provide a list of dependencies necessary for the build, so let's install those. And since this is probably going to take a while, I'll just speed through it. The next step, as suggested by the instructions, is to build the MakeMKV-OSS package, so let's do that, and again speed through it, as it does take a few moments to build. Once it's built, the tool suggests to use sudo make install, which is always a spooky thing to do. If you prefer not to install MakeMKV system-wide, you can simply try to run it from the out directory. But as you can see, that leads to an error saying can't locate MakeMKV-con. And as you might have already guessed, MakeMKV-con is the proprietary bit of the application. You can find it in the other, MakeMKV-bin archive. Simply copying it into the out directory should do the trick, just make sure you pick the correct architecture for your system, as these are pre-built binaries. Oops, still the same error. This is because MakeMKV-con is not executable by default, so let's fix that. And with that done, it looks like I might finally be ready to roll. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'll close it again, and do the system-wide install, just as the instructions suggest. Here I'll do sudo make install in the MakeMKV-OSS directory, and the same for the MakeMKV-bin directory. This will also ask me if I accept the license, first for the proprietary bits, then the whole GPLv2, and of course I agree, it would not let me use the software otherwise. And just like that, I now have MakeMKV installed on my system. As I've already mentioned, this is a clean system, it contains nothing secret, so I don't care too much about installing untrusted software. Anyway, I can now close everything, and start MakeMKV, using the newly installed icon in the Applications menu. Here it comes, and as you can see, I currently only have the laptop's DVD drive available, with no disk inserted in it. But I can easily fix that, let me grab the DVD and get it in. And ooh, things are starting to happen. It does take a few moments to load the disk, but ultimately, you can see that the disk was identified as matrix. It says the size is 7.77 gigabits, even though it really means gigabytes, and that it is a dual-layer DVD, which all sounds about right. With that, I can proceed by clicking the big disk drive icon to analyze the contents of the DVD. This might only take a few seconds, but it might also take 10 minutes, it purely depends on how chaotically the contents are organized on the disk, and you have no control over it. I happen to know that for this particular DVD, the process will take a few minutes, so I can use the spare time to connect my 2 Blu-ray drives to the laptop. And since I'm already at it, I'll also go ahead and insert the discs. Back to MakeMKV, this is still nowhere near finished, so I'll just speed up through it. Once finished, you can see that MakeMKV has identified multiple video titles. As a rule of thumb, the largest title is usually the movie itself, while the rest are things like bonus content, trailers, director's commentary, menu animations, and other things that nobody ever cares about. In this particular case, I want to get one of the 5 GB titles, but how do I know which one? I remember that inside the case it said the movie had 38 chapters, so the one with 99 is most likely not it. For the remaining 2, let's see what they contain. As you can see, the bottom one only has English and German audio and a single subtitles track in unknown language, while the one at the top has subtitle tracks for all the languages it is supposed to have. I'll grab the top one then. I'll get both English and German audio tracks, and for subtitles I'll get Dutch, Icelandic and Italian, because that sounds like something everybody might want. I'll also change the destination directory name to be a bit nicer. But I'm not going to click the MakeMKV button just yet. Instead, I'll move things around a bit and start 2 new instances of MakeMKV, because, you guessed it, a few moments ago I've connected 2 new disk drives to the laptop. And look at that, 2 new options have appeared, out of nowhere. Let's pick one of them, and as you can see, the media has again been identified as the Matrix. The size is 37.68 GB, and it is a dual-layer Blu-ray disc. A tiny bit above, you can also see that the drive is able to read DVDs from all regions, which is why I said earlier that nobody really cares what region a DVD has been released for. Let's also have a look at the last drive. This one contains a triple-layer Ultra HD Blu-ray disc. The size is 64.83 GB, and just as the previous 2, it got correctly identified as the Matrix. Everything looks okay, so I'll go back to the regular Blu-ray and click the big drive icon to analyze the contents. Oh, what is that? You need a license key for MakeMKV if you want to rip Blu-ray discs. At this point you have 2 options. You can start a 30-day trial period, during which MakeMKV will be fully functional. After 30 days, you will get the same prompt again, but obviously, starting another trial period will no longer be an option. The alternative is to get yourself a license key somewhere. You might have noticed that the window title says MakeMKV Beta. And luckily, MakeMKV is free while in beta, and a valid license key is published in a forum post. Let's see if the mighty internet can help us locate it. Look at that, there is indeed something that does look like a license key. Let's see if it works. And it does indeed. What a joy working with proprietary software is. Anyway, it now asks to restart the application for the changes to take effect, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Once everything is back, I can now try to analyze the Blu-ray disc again, and guess what, it now seems to work. I'll do the same for the 4K disc, though I have noticed that it now reports a size of almost 3,700 GB, which is certainly not right, and it might mean that the disc was not read properly. Let's just try and see. It failed indeed. I'll just try again to be sure, but it seems to be failing quite consistently. Fortunately, that is nothing to worry about. These things happen, and usually can get fixed by just reinserting the disc. And just like that, the size seems to be correct again, so it should now go through with no errors. It looks it did indeed, so now we can finally have a look at the contents of the two Blu-ray discs. I'll start with the regular Blu-ray. Just as in the case of the DVD, there seems to be a lot of garbage. But there are only two really big titles, one has chapters, while the other one does not, so the choice is quite obvious. I'm going for the very first one. From this one, I'll keep the English True HD and the Thai audio tracks, and for subtitles, I'll go with Bulgarian and Turkish. I'll also change the destination directory name to match the one I've used for the DVD, because I am on Linux, and file names are case sensitive. With that done, I can now move to the last, 4K disc. This one seems a bit different, there is not that much extra stuff, however there are two titles that seem to be identical. They have the same size, and the same amount of chapters. Let's open each of them and see what they contain. Here, the difference is obvious immediately. The first title contains English and Japanese languages, while the second one contains everything else. I am not exactly sure why that is the case, but it is very common to see the Japanese version split into a separate track. So for this one, I'll go with the first track. I'll keep 7.1 and 5.1 English audio, as well as Japanese stereo, and both English and Japanese subtitles. And with that done, it looks like I might finally be ready to roll. I'll go back to the DVD window and click the MakeMKV button. It asks me if I want to create the destination directory, which obviously I do, and just like that, the ripping process has now begun. I have noticed that the Blu-ray does not really like the idea of the destination directory name being lowercase, but I can quickly fix that, and then press the MakeMKV button for that one as well. Last but not least, the 4K disc, and fortunately, no surprises or unexpected prompts there. So just like that, I have all three discs ripping at the same time. At this point there is not much more I can do, and as the process is going to take a while, I'll speed through it. Around 10 minutes later, the DVD is the first one to finish. Let's wait for the other two. Another 10 minutes have passed, and the Blu-ray is now done as well. Finally, after approximately 1 hour, the last one to finish is the 4K disc. In summary, the DVD has shrunk by about 100 megabytes and took about 10 minutes to finish. The regular Blu-ray has reduced in size quite significantly, from 27 gigabytes to just 18, and took about 20 minutes to rip. The 4K Blu-ray has shrunk from 64 gigabytes to 52, but took a little bit over 1 hour to rip. It is worth noting that the size reduction does not come from MakeMKV applying any compression or transcoding. It is simply caused by me unselecting some of the audio and subtitle tracks. With that sorted out, I can now close all the notifications and eject all the discs. I have reorganized the scene a bit so that you can better enjoy what happens next. All that remains is to close MakeMKV and do some housekeeping. I'll open the file manager and navigate to the videos directory, where the three files should have landed. And indeed, here they are. They just have kind of random names, so I'll rename them to be easily recognizable. And now you can play any of these three files on your computer. You do not need the optical media anymore. You can put the discs back into their boxes, and hide the boxes in a cupboard, or in the oblivion, whichever you prefer. And that really is all I have for this video. It is possible to do much more stuff from here, such as shrink the file sizes further down, or use software like Plex or Jellyfin to organize the media into your own streaming service. But I'll leave that for the future. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I wish you a lot of fun enjoying the media that you have paid for, with no further restrictions.